Hi, it's Brian. This is the Awards Contender, and it is time to talk the big Oscar contenders that premiered at the first three fall festivals, Venice, Telluride, and Toronto. In the coming days, I'm going to begin my early Oscar prediction series looking at the top 8 categories, starting with original screenplay and adapted screenplay. But before we get to those videos, I wanted to do kind of a check-in on what is the state of the race right now for the films that had their world premieres at Venice, Telluride, and or Toronto. So in this video, we're not going to talk about other films that premiered before that. We're not going to discuss Oppenheimer, Barbie, Killers of the Flower Moon, Past Lives. This video is about the films that had their world premieres at the first 3 big fall festivals. And I'm going to count down my list of films that I think will be in the conversation all the way to numbers 3, 2, and 1, movies that are for sure going to get multiple Oscar nominations. Here we go. Before we get to number 10, a few runners up. Dream Scenario, starring Nicolas Cage, which premiered at the Toronto Film Festival. I have heard nothing but raves about this movie and Cage's performance. It sounds like a really trippy premise, and that they executed it really well. I'm not very confident that it's going to get into the Oscars. I feel like original screenplay would be its best bet. We'll see how this movie plays out in the months to come. It might get into original screenplay. I think Best Actor is way too crowded to consider Nicolas Cage, but I'm excited to see it. There's One Life that also premiered at Toronto. Anthony Hopkins got a lot of buzz around his performance. You can never count out Anthony Hopkins. Right now, we might be like, no, that's not gonna happen. But you never know. Come December, January, all he needs is one major nomination at the precursor ceremonies, and then he's potentially in. Anthony Hopkins is such a beloved actor. If he gives an amazing performance in One Life, watch out. He could be a spoiler. And then kind of in that same vein, Kate Winslet also has a lot of respect, and Lee is a biopic. Even though the reviews seem to be mixed coming out of Toronto about that film, Kate Winslet is beloved, and it's been a while since her last Oscar nomination. Right now, I don't think that one is going to happen. I don't think Lee gets into the Oscars, but Kate Winslet in a biopic, we have to keep her name in the mix. Memory, which premiered at Venice, starring Jessica Chastain and Peter Sarsgaard. This one is absolutely in the conversation because Sarsgaard won Best Actor at Venice. Last year's Best Actor winner was Colin Farrell for The Banshees of Inisherin. The feeling I got about Memory is that it's a good movie, not necessarily a great movie. It could be one of those titles that people liked at Venice, but come December, January, February, it's not really in the conversation anymore. But I love Peter Sarsgaard. I would love to see him get his first Oscar nomination. I heard from a couple people that although he won Best Actor at Venice, he could be considered for Best Supporting Actor. I guess he's not in the movie the entire time. So I don't know, Best Supporting Actor is already just as crowded as Best Actor. It's going to be really difficult for Sarsgaard to get in if Memory is not being considered in any other category, like Best Picture, Best Actress for Jessica Chastain. If it's just all about the Sarsgaard performance, that one could miss. I don't know. But because of that win at Venice, he's definitely in the conversation. And then lastly, on that same wavelength, we have Priscilla, which also premiered at Venice, the new film from Sofia Coppola. The winner of Best Actress at Venice was Kaylee Spaney for her performance as Priscilla Presley in that film. I have not heard amazing things about Priscilla, so her chances at a Best Actress Oscar nomination for me seem kind of in doubt, although a Best Actress win at Venice and the fact that she's playing a real person in a Sofia Coppola film, she could get in. If she could get one big precursor nomination at Golden Globes or Critics' Choice or SAG, then it could happen. Best Actress is really interesting this year because there are 11, 12 contenders that all kind of have a chance of getting in, and a lot of it's going to come down to how well certain films do in other categories, how much passion there is for some of these performances. Will there be enough passion for Kaylee Spaney in Priscilla? I'm not feeling it right now, but last year, the winner of Best Actress at Venice was Cate Blanchett for Tar. So I don't know. Like, Priscilla is definitely going to stay in the conversation. We'll see how it does in the early weeks of awards season. Right now, I don't think Kaylee Spaney makes it in at the Oscars, but you never know. All right, now let's get into what I think are the top 10 Oscar contenders that premiered at Venice, Telluride, and or Toronto, starting with number 10, Ferrari, which premiered at Venice. In my very early Oscar predictions video from a few weeks back, I said that I don't think Ferrari is going to do too well at the Oscars. Michael Mann movies are pretty much ignored outside of like The Insider from '99. And just based on the stills I had seen, I was like, no, I don't know if this one's going to do well. And I feel like word on the movie was mixed out of Venice. I didn't hear a lot of great things, but I keep seeing her name over and over on prediction lists. I've seen it on Twitter. Penelope Cruz apparently gives an amazing performance in Ferrari, and she is looking like a very big contender for Best Supporting Actress at the Oscars. They love Penelope Cruz. She has been nominated 4 times now, most recently for Parallel Mothers, and like, if she is just dynamite in this movie, the Academy might want to nominate this movie for something, and Penelope Cruz might be its best bet. Number 9 is Nyad. Boy, this movie, man, I really liked it, and I thought the performances in it by Annette Bening and Jodie Foster are incredible. But in the days and weeks since, I have heard a lot of mixed things about the movie from others. There are 2 people who told me it was their least favorite movie of Telluride weekend. And so I'm feeling like Best Picture and Best Screenplay are off the table, which means that if Nyad gets into the Oscars, it's really just going to be a play for the acting categories. And I wonder if, with the very stiff competition we have in actress and supporting actress, and if there's not a lot of love for Nyad, the movie itself, like, I feel like both Bening and Foster might just barely miss the final cut. They both might be in like 6th or 7th place. I mean, I feel pretty strongly like both will get in at the Golden Globes. Like, I feel like that's gonna happen. And then potentially like Bening gets that 6th place slot at Critics' Choice. Like, she's going to make a run for this. I can't imagine Annette Bening is just completely ignored throughout the season. But sadly, even though I really did like the film, like, I feel like Nyad could be another Film Stars Don't Die in Liverpool or 20th Century Women for Annette Bening. Like, she might get nominated in 1 or 2 places early on, but because enough people, enough critics, enough Academy members are kind of mixed on the movie itself, like, she might not get in, which would sadden me. But this is just a very competitive year, and I am not convinced that Bening misses out, but Foster gets in. That would be weird to me, if Foster gets into supporting actress at the Oscars, but Bening misses in Best Actress. That would seem a little strange to me. I feel like if Foster gets in, Bening probably gets in too. So I'm keeping their names in the mix. I would love to see those nominations happen. But right now, yeah, Nyad is down on the list at number 9. Number 8 is Origin, a movie I don't know very much about, but it got really great reviews out of the Toronto Film Festival. Ava DuVernay is a colossal talent, and her film Selma got into the Oscars. I love that movie. Her documentary, The 13th, was nominated at the Oscars, and I'm hearing good things about Origin, and especially that lead performance by Anjanou Ellis-Taylor, who was nominated a couple years ago for King Richard. Like, on a couple big prediction websites, she is in the final 5 for Best Actress right now. I mean, I'm not entirely sure if that's going to happen. I have to see the movie first, but she is a phenomenal actress, and there's usually at least one kind of surprise on Oscar nominations morning in the Best Actress category. Like, I could see Ellis-Taylor missing at a couple of the precursor ceremonies, but then she gets in at the Oscars. I have to see the film to make my final judgment, but Anjanou Ellis-Taylor getting into Best Actress would be really cool, and so I'm rooting for her. And I'm hearing Origin has a shot at Best Picture as well. Like, we're gonna keep this film in the mix for sure. Number 7 is Saltburn, my favorite film I saw at Telluride. I don't know if you watched my review of the movie a few weeks ago, but in all of my praise, all of my passion for this amazing movie, I was like, I don't know if this is going to get into the Oscars, like, at all. Like, I could see it getting nothing. Because of the subject matter, if you haven't seen it yet, you'll see in the second half, it goes to some pretty crazy places. And so I was like, oh, I don't know, this one might be a little too much for the Academy. But as the weeks go on, I feel a little bit more confident in Saltburn maybe getting into 2 or 3 slots at the Oscars, because I really haven't seen yet a negative review of the movie. Everything I've been reading on Twitter, it's had a couple LA screenings, I think it played at another festival recently, and I'm just seeing so much passion for this movie online from a lot of people. I mean, I feel like at the end of the day, who cares about the subject matter? If enough people really, really love it, it's gonna get in. Like, you can't have everybody loving a movie and then it just misses out on Oscar nominations morning completely. Like, it could be one of those films that gets like the 10th slot for Best Picture, and then maybe gets into original screenplay for Emerald Fennell, and that's it. It misses out in the acting categories. It doesn't get any or maybe one technical nomination. Like, Saltburn could be that movie that just barely makes it in because of the immense love from critics and audiences. I'm feeling better about it now than I actually felt when I saw it for the first time about a month ago. Like, because of all the raves I've been seeing, like, come on, Saltburn, come on. I would love for that to happen. It's opening in theaters in November, and we'll see. Like, if it can get into some of the precursor ceremonies, I think Saltburn might have a shot. It is such a great movie, you guys. I have not stopped thinking about it in the last few weeks. I can't wait to watch it again, and I would love to see this amazing movie get into the Oscars. Number 6 is Rustin. This is a unique case in that I don't think the movie is going to get into Best Picture or Best Director. I think it probably gets into Screenplay. I think because there are enough slots in Screenplay, 10 instead of the usual 5 in a lot of other categories, I think Rustin probably gets in there. I liked the movie. I didn't love it, as I talked about in my review, but I would be devastated on Oscar nominations morning if Colman Domingo missed in Best Actor. Like, I saw the other day, someone said he might be in first place to win Best Actor. I'm not going to go that far. I don't think Colman Domingo is necessarily going to win any big prizes, especially if Rustin is not showing up in Best Picture and some of the other top categories. But it is such a commanding, original, memorable performance that would be shocking to me if Colman Domingo did not make it into Best Actor at the Academy Awards. He is definitely getting in, even if the movie doesn't get a lot of Oscar nominations total. I think Domingo gives one of those performances that just can't be ignored. He is getting in almost, I would say, 100%. Number 5, All of Us Strangers. How well is All of Us Strangers, the new film from Andrew Haigh, going to do at the Oscars? Like, Andrew Haigh's movies, even though they're always well reviewed, don't really get into the Oscars. His only nomination for one of his movies is Charlotte Rampling in Best Actress for 45 Years. I at first thought of putting All of Us Strangers a lot lower on this list at like 8 or 9, because the only category I feel like it has a pretty good chance of getting into is adapted screenplay. I'm almost 100% it's going to get in there. But the one thing about All of Us Strangers that makes me wonder if it's going to do better this award season than we're thinking right now is that the level of passion for this movie, like the high rankings from critics. Like, I'm pretty sure it was the highest rated movie that played at Telluride weekend. Like, there is pretty much nobody who was given this a negative review. Almost everybody loves it. It is such a unique movie. I had a couple minor issues with it as a whole, but it is very lovely and surreal. Great performances, especially by Andrew Scott. I feel like in a less competitive year, Andrew Scott would make it into Best Actor. He's that good in All of Us Strangers. But right now, I feel like he might be in like 7th or 8th place. Like, it would be shocking in the best way possible if he made it in an Oscar nominations morning. Like, I kind of wonder if All of Us Strangers can get into Best Picture. Like, if there's enough passion for this movie, kind of like how I talked about with Saltburn, like, it could make it into Best Picture, and Best Adapted Screenplay. I would love to see it get into Best Cinematography. I just feel like right now, the enthusiasm for this movie is at such a high level that it might do better at the Oscars than many of us are predicting right now, and so that's why it's number 5 on this list. Number 4 is American Fiction, which premiered at the Toronto Film Festival and won its prized People's Choice Award. This award is very important to a film's Oscar prospects. Like I think I read recently, only 2 of the last 10 films that have won the People's Choice Award at Toronto did not get a Best Picture nomination at the Oscars. Like if your film wins this award, you're in a very good position. Green Book, I remember, won the People's Choice at Toronto in 2018. That's when I first heard about that movie. And then that went on to win the Best Picture Oscar a few months later. Now, I'm not sure how much of a threat American Fiction is going to be at the Oscars in terms of how many categories it gets in. Can it get into Best Picture? It is kind of up in the air at the moment, but that People's Choice Award makes me think American Fiction might well get into Best Picture. And Jeffrey Wright, the amazing Jeffrey Wright, who I have loved in films for decades, has never been nominated for an Academy Award. He's been so good for so many years, and this might be his ticket to a Best Actor Oscar nomination. It seems to be looking better and better with each passing day. I am seeing his name in a lot of the Oscar prediction lists, including the final 5 for Best Actor. Like, Best Actor this year is crazy. There are at least 10 great performances I've already seen this year that could get into that category. And that doesn't even factor in the performances I haven't seen yet, which includes Jeffrey Wright's performance. Like, I haven't heard a bunch of raves about the movie itself. Like, I heard from someone, I can't remember, it might have been a podcast I was listening to, where they said they were surprised to hear that American Fiction beat out the Holdovers for People's Choice at Toronto. I think a lot of people were predicting the Holdovers would win People's Choice, but that film came in second place. So yeah, I'm excited to see American Fiction, and I think it will play a role in the upcoming award season, including the Oscars. Number 3 is The Holdovers, which I saw at Telluride. It was one of my 3 favorite films I watched that weekend. If you are a fan of Paul Giamatti, if you are a fan of Alexander Payne's work, you are in for a treat. I loved this movie from beginning to end. I can't wait to watch it again. And walking out of that theater, I was like, the Academy is going to eat this movie up. I just feel like they're going to love this one. They have supported Alexander Payne's work throughout the decades. Nebraska, The Descendants, Sideways, About Schmidt. Like, his films usually do pretty well, and I feel like The Holdovers is going to make it into at least 5 or 6 categories. On one of the big Oscar prediction websites I just looked at a few hours ago, Paul Giamatti was in 6th place. That would be devastating. One of the biggest acting Oscar snubs of the 2000s is Paul Giamatti for Sideways. For him to miss Best Actor again for another incredible performance in an Alexander Payne movie, like that would be too much for me to handle, honestly. Like, Paul Giamatti deserves to be in that final 5. He is glorious in The Holdovers. Man, I know that category is going to be competitive, but I really, really hope Giamatti makes it in. And then with Lily Gladstone campaigning for lead actress for Killers of the Flower Moon, Divine Joy Randolph is an instant frontrunner, I would say right now, for Best Supporting Actress. She is incredible in this movie. I loved her performance. And I just think this movie is going to do well. It is absolutely guaranteed to get into Best Picture. The Holdovers will get in there. Best Director for Payne, I mean, he often gets in for his movies. He got in for Nebraska and The Descendants and Sideways for Best Director. So I feel like he could get into Director too, but The Holdovers is kind of a quiet film, so I wonder if at the end of the day he might be in like 6th or 7th place. But of the films that made their world premiere at the Telluride Film Festival, which I attended a few weeks ago, I do think The Holdovers has the best chance of them all to be a major Oscar contender. Number 2 is Maestro, which premiered at the Venice Film Festival. Maestro is a movie, I feel it in my gut. I didn't hear a lot of like crazy rave reviews about it, but I just think Maestro is going to do well. They love Bradley Cooper, they love Carey Mulligan, neither one has ever won an Oscar, so there's going to be a career narrative for both of them to potentially win an Oscar. And I just feel like the movie's subject matter helps, the cinematography looks gorgeous, like Maestro is likely going to get into Best Picture, Best Actor, Best Actress, maybe Best Director for Bradley Cooper as well. Like, I kind of go back and forth on who is the frontrunner to win Best Actor right now. Cillian Murphy feels pretty solid for Oppenheimer, but he's never been nominated before, and Bradley Cooper has so many nominations. Like, that overdue narrative might kick in at the right time if enough people really love Maestro and his performance in it. Like, Bradley Cooper might win Best Actor for that film. So we're going to see a lot of Maestro in the weeks and months to come. I can see it getting in at all the precursor ceremonies and getting potentially 5, 6, 7 or more Oscar nominations. Like, Maestro is going to do very well at the Academy Awards. But is Maestro going to do as well at the Oscars as my number one choice? No. I think the movie that's going to go toe-to-toe with Oppenheimer for the most Oscar nominations next year is easily Poor Things, one of my 2 favorite films I saw at the Telluride Film Festival, and which made its world premiere at the Venice Film Festival. This movie is extraordinary. I have not stopped thinking about it. The world that Yorgos Lanthimos creates in this film is just unlike anything you've ever seen before. The movie is very funny, it's emotional, it's surprising, and it gives us some of the best performances you will see in 2023, starting with Emma Stone, who I think gives the performance of the year. She took my breath away in this movie. She is on another level. If she can win Best Actress for La La Land, it makes sense to me that she will win her 2nd Academy Award for Best Actress for Poor Things. Like, I don't know how many people are locked into the Best Actress category at the Oscars. Emma Stone is a lock. Like, she is the front runner. She is definitely getting in. You can count on that. And then I do think in supporting actor, both Mark Ruffalo and Willem Dafoe have very good shots of getting in. If one were to be taken out, it would be Willem Dafoe. There's a big chunk of the movie where he disappears. So I think if it's just one of the 2 guys, Mark Ruffalo will get in. I think Poor Things has a shot to win the Best Picture Oscar, so it's definitely getting into that category. It's going to be in the top 2 or 3 places in Best Picture. Yorgos Lanthimos absolutely gets into Best Director. I cannot see him missing there. And then, of course, Screenplay, as well as all the technical categories. Like, Poor Things is so beautiful to look at. I could see it getting 5, 6, potentially 7 Oscar nominations in the technical categories. Like, I feel like Poor Things is going to be considered for pretty much every Oscar category it is eligible for. And I mean, I even tweeted out a few weeks back, I said, like, this movie could get 14 Oscar nominations if it doesn't miss anywhere. If it gets into every category it can, which would tie the record with All About Eve, Titanic, and La La Land, also starring Emma Stone. That would be an interesting scenario where 2 Emma Stone movies get 14 Oscar nominations and she wins Best Actress for both. Now, I'm not sure any of that's going to happen. Poor Things might get more like 10 or 11 nominations, but Poor Things, of all the films that premiered at Venice, Telluride, or Toronto, is definitely going to do the best at the upcoming Oscars. It's number 1 by far, not by just a little bit. Like, Poor Things is going to be a huge contender in a variety of categories all throughout award season and going into the Academy Awards. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and stay tuned in the coming days and weeks for my early Oscar predictions video series, which I'm starting with original screenplay and adapted screenplay. We'll see you next time at the Awards Contender.